Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We're just a couple minutes late, but we'll get right to it. We are here today to hear from experts as well as, actually, a lot of experts, including four high school students, on the topic of youth mental health and to learn about a program called Youth Empowered Advocating for Health. My name is Avery Pakulis. I'm with First Focus on Children, and we're a bipartisan advocacy organization that works to prioritize children in federal policy and budget decisions. We are generously and thoughtfully supported in this work by the William T. Grant Foundation, and we thank them for that. And I'll just run through a couple quick housekeeping items. Our webinar will be recorded. We'll share materials with everyone who registered after the webinar today. We will have a question and answer period toward the end of our session. So you should see a question and answer option at the bottom of your screen. So feel free to drop questions in there as they come to you during the presentations. And at the end, we'll go through some of those and hear from our presenters. Um, at the federal level, there is a lot of interest in Congress and the administration around youth mental health. There's been a lot of legislation introduced, hearings have been held in Congress, and some legislation has passed. But we also, at the same time, see some declining federal investments in programs that support youth mental health. First Focus on Children tracks federal spending on kids across over 250 programs, including some mental health programs. And in fiscal year 25, the federal government's investment in children overall declined for the fourth consecutive year, both in real terms and also as a share of the federal budget. So today, children receive just 8.57% of all federal spending. And that is for all children's programs overall. Looking specifically at youth mental health programs, we've seen mostly flat funding for those in recent years. Some of those include Project Launch, Children's Mental Health Services, the Community Mental Health Services Block Grant, and others. But flat funding is actually a real cut. It constitutes a real cut in dollars going towards these programs. And we think this is at a time when we can least afford disinvestment in youth and their mental health. We also find that youth voices are mostly missing from policy decisions and policy making, both on mental health and as well as many other topics. So that is why today we're excited and honored to have four high school students with us who will share their experiences with the mental health program. We'll call it YA for short. Again, the Youth Empowered Advocating for Health. And they're going to leave us with some recommendations for policy changes that they think can better serve youth and their mental health. And these students have found time somehow between school, homework, jobs, extracurricular activities, and other things that they have to do every day to be with us today to share their experiences. And we're just really appreciative to have them here. We will be joined by Dante and Tajay from North Carolina, Kylan from Georgia, and Sincere from Missouri. So welcome to all of you, and we're looking forward to your presentation in a little while. At the top here, we have a recording from Congresswoman Deborah Ross, who's from North Carolina. She represents the second district of North Carolina. Two of the students here today are constituents of the Congresswoman's. So she has shared some remarks for them and to help us kick off our webinar. I can't hear the sound. If anyone can hear me. All right, we're going to try that one more time. Okay, we're actually going to hold on the Congresswoman's remarks for a minute. And we are also joined today by Catherine Hagan in Senator Warnock's office. One of our students today is from Georgia, And Catherine has joined us from the senator's office. Quick bio on Catherine. It's an impressive bio. I could go on for a long time, but she's a bilingual clinical psychologist and researcher in child development. She recently concluded 2 years of work and training at the University of California, San Francisco's Child Trauma Research Program. Catherine is originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and today, again, she is joining us from the DC office of Senator Raphael Warnock, where she's a legislative fellow on his health policy team. Catherine, thanks for being here today.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Thank you, Avery, for the introduction. It is so good to be here with you all, with today's panelists and student advocates and the participants and attendees in today's briefing. As Avery mentioned, I'm a clinical psychologist and a researcher in the area of child development. And I have the tremendous good fortune of working on Senator Raphael Warnock's health policy team as a legislative fellow. And I know that Senator Warnock wishes that he could be here personally, and I'm here today as something of a humble ambassador for Senator Warnock in his office. On behalf of the Senator, it is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to today's panelists and youth advocates, including the youth advocate from Atlanta, and to express profound and heartfelt appreciation for your important work in service of youth health and thriving. In anticipation of today's briefing, I had the chance to read an article that today's panelists and co-authors published together in the journal Prevention Science in 2022, and I recommend the article for folks who have not yet had a chance to read it. And as I understand it, the YEA program that we'll hear about today not only supports mental health, but also advances health equity more broadly. Youth mental health and health equity and their interconnectedness are close to Senator Warnock's heart, and the Senator's commitment to supporting mental health and advancing health equity are reflected in his actions in the Senate. His efforts on these fronts span further than I can do justice to here, but a representative example is his championing of school-based mental health resources. For example, in 2022, Senator Warnock's vote helped to pass the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which made historic investments of about $1 billion to support school-based mental health services. That is, for school districts to hire and retain mental health professionals like counselors and psychologists so that youth can access mental health supports in schools. Now, this funding was signed into law in 2022, but has faced cuts under the current administration, which has announced an end to the funds. So Senator Warnock has not only been fighting, but will continue to fight for protecting investments in school-based mental health resources. The Senator has also championed the ASSIST Act, which stands for Advancing Student Services in Schools Today. The Act, as that name suggests, seeks to advance student services in schools. That is, it seeks to set up consistent funding for students to have access to mental health resources in the familiar setting that school represents. Senator Warnock has also worked to advance health equity, which is, of course, inseparable from the subject of youth mental health. In the last Congress, Senator Warnock joined his Senate colleagues in introducing Senate Resolution 319, a resolution declaring racism a public health crisis, and thereby acknowledging the contribution of structural racism to racial disparities in health outcomes. The resolution cites multiple examples of health inequities, including the egregious and painful fact that Black women are more likely than white women to die in childbirth. The Senator is working to address these and similarly unconscionable health disparities and maternal health outcomes, including by championing the Kira Johnson Act, which would establish a grant program to reduce implicit bias, racism, discrimination, and differential treatment or rather racist or discriminatory treatment of Black women in maternal care settings in order to improve health outcomes. While the Senator could not himself be here at today's briefing, I believe that if he were here, he would join us to keep the faith. And I know that he's proud that Georgia youth and constituents are taking part in this important work, which resonates so strongly with his own. The Senate and his staff are available to Georgia families if the Senate, if the senator can be of assistance in any way. And I'm so pleased for the chance to learn from today's presenters and to relay takeaways to our office. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Catherine. We really appreciate those remarks. We appreciate the senator so much, as well as your work and the work of your colleagues. We know that the senator works very hard, but you and your colleagues do as well. So thank you for that. We appreciate your time today and welcome you to be here with us. I think we're going to try the video from Congresswoman Ross one more time. We'll do that now and see if it works.
Hi, this is Congresswoman Deborah Ross, and I'm so excited to be able to join you virtually. Youth Empowered Advocating for Health. What an amazing organization. Young people identifying needs, mental health needs in the community, and making a real difference. I've been working on mental health issues for more years than you've been alive. But what I can tell you is young people really need places, safe places, to be able to get the help that they need. And COVID made things worse, but what we need to know is that people are here to listen to you, to understand what you're going through, and to really help you. And you're helping each other. I've been working on these issues in Wake County and throughout the state. We even got some funding for the new mental health hospital in Garner. But the most important thing is doing what you're doing, recognizing that when people need help, we're here to give it to them. And there is no shame in asking for mental health. I am so proud of everything that you're doing. I hope that you have a great event, and please know that I am always on your side.
We thank the Congresswoman for those remarks and as well as her staff. And next, we're going to turn to three people who have been implementing the YA program for over a decade. They'll share with us the broader context of youth mental health, as well as describe their work with this program and the students here with us. Brianna Woods Jaeger is an associate professor at the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University. Melvin Jackson is the founder and principal partner at the Prime Collective. And Alexandra Lightfoot is associate professor at the Gillings School of Global Public Health at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And I will turn it to these three experts next. Thank you all.
Well, thank you. I believe the slide's going to be pulled up. I can go ahead and get started while those are being pulled up. So my name is, as was mentioned, Dr. Brianna Woods Jaeger. I am a clinical psychologist by training, but have been in public health for quite some time. And I've been so fortunate to work with Alex and Melvin on this project for over a decade, but also in the area of youth mental health. And so I'm just going to start by giving us some general framing around Black youth mental health in particular, and some of the work that we've done previously that informed the focus of this particular project. So I can't see the slides. I'm not sure. Are they pulled up? Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So we can go to the next slide. So just to start, again, just to provide some really general framing about what we're focused on with Black youth mental health, we know that we're increasingly seeing the youth mental health crisis in general grow. And for Black youth, this is particularly pronounced in certain areas like suicide death rates, which we have seen really increase over the last decade. And so this graph that you see is just in one illustration. Particularly the orange bars show this percent change in the last decade around Black adolescent suicide death rates and how much it's increased. So this is a very serious issue, something we're very concerned about. And in our work, we're really fortunate to partner with young people for quite some time to work together to try to identify, one, better understand what are the issues around mental health that we need to be focused on, and then what are some ideas of how we can work together and really build a community network and resources to address mental health. And so we did a series of focus groups a few years ago with Black youth to really get their perspective on how we can be responding to things like community violence exposure and other traumas. And in those focus groups, we heard a lot of ideas and suggestions, as well as experiences that are important for us to recognize. So these quotes are just a few representative quotes from that project. In this first one, we hear about just how youth are recognizing the concerns, but are also seeing that there's not a lot of response. So one of our youth partners shared, they have these signs all around school, no bullying, no bullying. We telling y'all these kids, some of these kids are suicidal and y'all not doing nothing about it. So this general feeling that there isn't a response to what they're recognizing as an increasing issue among their peers and in their schools. And then the second quote really also reflects this, as well as some of the concern around people not knowing what to do. Someone youth shared, we really don't have no places that can help. It's always like somebody that's going to die in the beginning of the school year. Everybody really ain't going to know how to cope about it. So again, we hear both the severity of the issue, but also this lack of response that youth are identifying that needs to be addressed. Next slide, please. So then the other issue that we've been looking at are what are those barriers to addressing mental health concerns that youth are identifying? And this graph, again, just to show some national data around for youth of color, there are disparities in terms of them receiving any mental health treatment. So we know there's gaps in care and support that are being provided to youth, including Black youth. And then we've done qualitative research again to really understand from youth's perspective and experience, what are those barriers that we need to be thinking about? And we've heard a number of them, but just to highlight a few, one of the things that we've seen consistently, not only in this particular study, but in other studies that we've done, is that for Black youth, they've often reported their mental health concerns or issues are responded to more with punishment rather than therapeutic support. And this includes things like being suspended from school and for what's considered behavioral problems that actually have a root in trauma or other mental health concerns. And so this first quote, sometimes it's hard to tell everything because you feel like you're going to get in trouble for it. Really just reflects that idea that there's concerns around even talking about mental health because of the potential punitive responses. In addition, there's a certain level of hopelessness, or again, this recognition that there's not enough response, like we saw on the previous slide. And so another youth shared, in like the ideal world, it would be cool to have people, helping you out, but I mean, that's not how the world is. We then talked a little bit about stigma, and we've heard this again in multiple studies, but it's really complicated because there's both internalized stigma, there's stigma from the community or family, and really what we're going to hear later, I think, is some really good ideas about how we can be addressing that. But what we've heard in some of our previous work is that youth feel that they have to portray a certain persona of being strong, of things not bothering them, just because of these concerns around being weak or vulnerable. So when you shared, you're tough and you don't want people to think like something got to you. You're sensitive, that you're weak. We also heard about barriers to getting mental health treatment due to stigma that others may have around it. When you shared, if you want to go to therapy or stuff like that, sometimes you need a parent signature, and there's a huge stigma around it. And then finally, this general feeling that it can be really difficult to share what's going on with other people because of how painful it is. And so when you shared, you don't want to talk about it all the time because you're hurting so badly. So again, this is really just framing why it's so important for us to be focusing on youth mental health, and in particular focusing on it in partnership with young people who do have solutions. And so I want to say, while this sounds very grave and it is a crisis that we're in, and we really need to pay attention to what these challenges are, we also have a lot of hope. And part of what we've been doing in the YAB program is really learning from young people and partnering with them around those solutions that they've identified. So I'm now going to turn it over to Melvin and Alex to share more about that program.
Thank you, Brianna. Um, so I'm gonna step back before we started doing this work around. In 1996, Strengthening Black Families, which is a nonprofit in Southeast Raleigh, was doing implementing an HIV/AIDS youth-focused intervention. We sustained that work for 14 years before losing the funding. And at that time, Strengthening the Black Family, in partnership with UNC, and that's Melvin Jackson and Alex Lightfoot, along with, at that time, our Kellogg Health Scholar postdoc mentor, Brianna, came together to implement a HIV program in two churches. And we used a community-based participatory research approach, which essentially means that the university and the community that came together using our shared expertise to develop this work. And again, it was built around HIV and AIDS, but through that work, we developed focus groups, we developed a community advisory board, and which was intergenerational advisory board. And through that, we were able to hear from the community, specifically the youth, that um, they needed more support, not just in HIV, but the issues were their vulnerability, as we talk here about mental health. So as a result, they developed the YEAH program, Youth Empowered Advocating for Health. And we call it a movement because we started this work in 2011, and the three of us, through some means, have continued to do it. And it's been based on a toolkit that the youth were able to put together. And not only that, one of the youth that was in our original program has been one of their facilitators in this particular project. And what's so valuable about it, and you'll hear from our youth, is that it gives youth that are interested in exercising their leadership and advocacy skills to improve and support their community. Alex.
Thank you, Melvin. Thank you, Brianna. It's been a joy to work with you all these years, and particularly to work with youth and make sure that they are their voices are raised because they are the experts on their experience. And just a tiny bit about our approach. Obviously, it's a partnership approach. But we use the YEAH curriculum uses a photo voice methodology, which is giving cameras to people in communities to identify their concerns. And it has an advocacy component because out of looking at the images that people take in a facilitated discussion, community members then generate action steps to address those concerns and then bring them, raise awareness about them in a community forum using arts-based storytelling approaches. And I'm the last adult you have to hear because we are about to turn to the youth, and it's really important that we get to hear them. So you can hear how we use this YEAH process, this photo voice methodology with youth in Kansas City, in Atlanta, and in Raleigh, kind of over the last while. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sincere from Kansas City so you can hear our first youth.
Hello, I'm from the Kansas City group, originally from Boys and Girls Club of Kansas City. Um, I joined this program because I would like to shine a light on, shine more of a light on mental health for the youth, and I chose this image of a candle because if you think about it, the wax is more of a mental health thing, and the light is more of mental health. So when you're going through some type of mental health issue or anything like that, and you're trying to figure out what to do or who's going to help you, you're trying to find that light of what you're going to do next or who can help you. And I also think would be better for people to spread the awareness of mental health to try to crack down on the mental health issues in our society. I'm going to pass it on to Kylan.
Kylan, are you able to come off mute and speak?
Hello? My mic was muted. Uh, so what's happening with my camera is I never had Zoom downloaded, so it's I have to like download it to like turn it on.
We can hear you now, Kylan, so don't worry about it. You can just go ahead.
All right. So, well, my part was the photo voice part, and I chose this photo because I can relate to it because where I live right now, I live in Stone Mountain, and um I can look out outside my window and I can see like all the sidewalks and like all the like infrastructure is not really up to date as like when I go to Norcross to go to the Boys and Girls Club, and I just feel like Stone Mountain, and like I hear like some of the schools at Stone Mountain get like a bad reputation, so they think it's like a bad place. But I don't really think it's all that bad because I could literally walk out here in broad daylight and not get hurt. Also, uh, and um, the process about like thinking about what pictures I choose about the photo voice and like to help like to get to help us to decide what we're gonna like feel like what we're gonna record and like what parts of the film that we recorded are gonna be highlighted. So I thought of it as like a fun way. I think, well, I thought of it as being something fun because usually we don't really get to do much at the Boys and Girls Club because there aren't many opportunities like this. So, and it felt good and it was also fun because we got to get a lot of things off our chest and stuff. And like, sorry, it's a thinking because there's so much. Um, I really got to like see parts of people like I heard stuff that, I didn't really think someone was going through at all and stuff. And I heard and I saw like parts of people it really opened my aspect up and not my aspect, but like my perspective to like what people are going through and like how people are hurting and how they're like hiding it and stuff. So, um, and we thought about, well, yeah, we thought about like how we could help people nowadays because like they would say go to therapy and stuff, but like not everybody can like afford therapy and stuff. And like I'd be hearing like about stuff going on in school, but I noticed that like if you they don't really talk about mental health unless you're taking like a certain class like health and stuff. Well, yeah, health, because I took health my ninth grade year and they talked a little bit about like mental health and how to like, yeah, it was like wellness, something like spiritual wellness, mental wellness, and physical wellness. And so, um, I have this video next, and it gonna kind of highlight some of like the ideas or like some of the things that led us to coming up with the idea of a student to student peer led association program to like that we can implement in schools uh to help like uh kids get mental like somewhere like I guess a free space or somewhere they wouldn't be judged.
Thanks, Kylan. Are you ready for the video? I think we've got it pulled up.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
It gives students like a place to be. The SSA like it's kind of just for like help, like it's kind of just like group help,
And I feel like if you have like another peer that can talk to you, I feel like it'll get more students involved because I feel like other people.
Having a safe space like SSA, what that would mean to me is having somewhere to go when maybe I'm feeling uncomfortable or maybe I need somebody else's like point of view on a situation.
I would have like somewhere where like like nobody judges me and I'm like appreciated, like I can be myself around and stuff like that.
Having a safe space like SSA would make me feel good because I had like a place where I could talk about my problems and I could probably get a solution, or I could just talk about it and get it off my chest so I don't be stressed out.
The type of people I think would benefit from the SSA is people that go through like trauma or that like struggle like secretly.
I feel like a lot of people that's like stressed out, doesn't know what to do, struggling with certain things.
The SSA could fix the problem with people vaping. People could talk about why, the reason they're vaping, like, and SSA could like search for that root problem. We propose that at least 8 schools in Gwinnett County start a student-to-student association just to see how it works out and just to see that it'll actually relieve students of their stress or it'll help them find ways to resolve trauma or stress or like problems that they face in schools.
Thanks, Kylan. We're going to turn the program next over to Tajay and Dante from North Carolina.
Right. Hello. My name is Dante. I was from the presenting for the NC YMCA cohort. I was also accompanied by Tajay. So what we did was that we also did the photo voice. We also had a community forum where we went up and had a public speaking towards some Congress members as well as a few families, and a quote and picture that I feel that represented this this cohort is this: when it comes to mental health, the Black community is always treated like pillars. Like we can't show weakness or we can't fall at any time. We'll have to keep on pushing, fight through challenges, even though we might be hurting on the inside. As well as this picture of a police station, which is actually um, only a few minutes to only a few minutes away, not even a few minutes away, almost directly next to a nearby high school. I feel like both of these quotes and this picture kind of represent Black mental health because, as well as the cohort, because this is the exact thing that we want to oppose. We want to stop people from having to control, from having to like control and hide their feelings because they think that they're going to get a repercussion for, yeah, because we feel like there might be a repercussion towards just showing that we're hurting and that we can be weak around people that we trust so that way they can build us up to be stronger. But um, without areas and places to actually talk about them, it ends up becoming this sort of like dangerous place of like not being able to be fully open with anyone, even sometimes your family or your friends that you've been hanging with for months to maybe even years, depending on how long you've known or you've been in the area. So now I want to move it over to Tajay to talk about what we did for our program.
Hi everyone, my name is Tajay and I'm a part of the NC Youth group. On July 19th, we hosted a community forum at YMCA in which included youth, family members, community members, and local policymakers. To share our research, we wanted to do it in a simpler fashion and not have all of our information be so I guess, plastered around everyone to where everyone's confused. So we organized our community forum in three acts. The first act was messages we've received throughout our life about identity. And the second act was how these messages affected us in more mental health base. And the third act, our concluding act, was how does these messages play a part in our lives and what we can do to change and what do we want as the ending result. And since a lot of our audience was parents and people from our community, a lot of the responses we received was what can we do and how can we help. And from our conversation we talked about vulnerability and how it's really hard for us to open up to our parents, and since it's so hard to open up about our mental health from the world, it would be much easier to at least start from home. And so to our responses of what can we do, how can we change this issue, we wanted just for our parents to listen to us and actually be open to making changes within the house to make us feel comfortable. And this comes with like normalizing conversations about mental health in Black communities, between parents and youth, support approaches, um, that affirm authentic Black identity and reduce pressure to code switch, and provide long-term researches for long-term mental health programs like Black families. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about was from our own experiences being, having similar backgrounds of being Black and having to have these conversations about what to do when you get pulled over by the police, or how we should be presented outside and not have to kind of hide ourselves and hide our identities. So we just wanted to, I guess, shine light on that and make it known that this is what we are going through. Because when we do try to, I guess, at least talk about it, it's a lot of stigma around like, oh, like, what do you have to be? Um, like, why are you feeling this way? And it's very hard because our parents also got the same, I guess, treatment of always trying to stay strong and not being vulnerable. So I think having this conversation and having this community forum really helped push that narrative that we also are going through these things and we want to open up and we want to feel safe within our environments. And to the next slide is I guess, our like what came out of the um community forum. We had a artist, I guess, give this visual like diagram of what exactly was said throughout the community forum. We have the different acts, and at least for one of the acts, I remember the two dolls that's on your left. Um, it's a white doll and a black doll, and then the white doll was all messy. Although the hair is both messy, the white doll had like markers on it, like marker drawings on the face, and the white one was kind of untouched. And I think that just shows who was respected and who isn't, and how racial bias can show up at home. It doesn't always have to be slurs or violence. It can be your little sister's toy box. So I think this goes to show of how racism and mental health can impact Black youth and just youth in general, and how we kind of deal with it and how we can change.
Thank you, Tajay. We are going to actually throw this back to Sincere for a minute to go over some of the key asks that came out of the Kansas City Community Forum.
Alrighty. Hello again. Um, so I'm from the Kansas City Forum originally. We were there to advocate for mental resources and other things like mental health and resources for children or teenagers in schools. We also were trying to make it to the point where normal, mental health could be something normalized, talked about in a regular conversation instead of something that you just have to hide or keep kept secret, and to make people feel comfortable about their mental health so they feel better. And also about supporting communication and other things about mental health, like verbally talking about it or showing signs of it or anything like that. and also try to make a program or make a way and develop something for children, teenagers, and any type of youth to be accepted and appreciated in mental health and things like that.
Thank you so much, Sincere. That's great work. Well, that concludes the formal presentation part of our webinar, and we're now going to go to a question and answer period. We have a couple of questions from our audience. I also have a bunch myself, but I'll start with a couple that have been submitted. And we have one that addresses this generational gap that several of you talked about wanting to address. And I think the question is what can help bridge that gap? Are there programs or experiences that you've had that can help do that? Are there recommendations for things that haven't been implemented yet or haven't been tried yet that you would recommend? So I think that question, I'd love to direct it to our students first, to Sincere, Tajay, Dante, and I think Kylan had to hop off, but we've got the three of you. Would anyone like to start?
Well, I feel like I guess I'll go first. When it comes to bridging that generational gap of how do parents try to understand what kids are going through, usually the main big problem is understanding first before responding. Um, the main thing that can kind of push people away when it comes to not being able to understand what one side is going through versus the other is like dismissing it or saying that, oh, we went through this versus we went through that. I feel like something that we can use to try and help the parents understand, or in some cases, just anyone that isn't in the same generation, helping those two understand. Could be some sort of either a video or a picture, kind of like what we did with photo voice, and how we were able to use the photos to kind of express what we were trying to say. So being able to show, say, like photos or videos of what we or of what we've been going through can genuinely help, could be a genuine help get get parents to understand um, what we're seeing from our perspective.
Thanks, Dante. Sincere or Tajay, do you want to jump in? It's okay if not.
Um, I'll go first if that's okay. Okay. Um, I learned from my peers and advocates about mental health that I never thought I would understand was if you've known someone for such a long time or you feel comfortable around them, you'll get used to speaking to them about more things, and that kind of branches out onto the fact that mental health can be talked about normally if you talk to the right people and if you're really understood by the people. And I think that's a good thing to know and a good thing to have like a skill of communication to talk to others to make them feel good about it.
Yeah, sorry. I agree. Um, I think there also needs to be, similar to what Dante said, a relationship between parents and the youth, to actually start getting to understand how to bridge that generational gap. There's a lot of talk about, fixing things when it comes to like either science or society, but there needs to be a relationship between parents and the youth when it comes to trying to bridge mental health, because mental health is still kind of new to even them. I knew when I was opening up, or if my colleagues, or not colleagues, sorry, if my if my peers were opening up to their family, it was kind of like, oh, you don't even know what that is. You don't know what depression is. You don't know, what this, because I've been through such and such and I was able to overcome it. But I think their definition of overcoming things is just them putting it deep down, and it's just this overwhelming like generational trauma that just keeps continuing and continuing. It's not really helping anything but to hide about the struggles that we've both faced. So I think that there needs to be a level of comfortability with talking to your parents or just like any adult figure in your life that you feel comfortable with to try to fix that and make a change when it comes to mental health.
Thanks, Tajay, Sincere, and Dante for those answers. Another question for you all. When we're thinking on the community, state, and federal levels, when we're thinking about creating policies or changing policies that we hope will address youth mental health, why, from your perspectives, can you tell us why you think having a youth voice is important? And well, do you think it's important, first of all? It seems that you do. And if you do, why is it important? Why do youth need to be involved in those conversations and those policy creation and policy making decisions?
Uh, well, for me, I think it makes sense for youth a to have a say in when it comes to policies involving youth voice because, well, we're the subject matter. When you're going to make a policy that's supposed to help a certain group of people, you want to make sure that that group of people agrees with whatever the policy is supposed to be. So um, having them have a say in what the policy will do not only should help us get potentially better results on how well the impact will do for our community, but it'll also help us like phone not phone zero in on like one on major impacts caused by certain things because we'll be right there to say exactly how they have affected us or how they have or what was the cause of potential mental health problems. We get to be the eyes on the street that help us solve the messages that we've seen around the world and how they've affected us, and also how we can fix them and how we can get rid of those messages.
Thanks, Dante. Tajay or Sincere, did you want to jump in on that question?
I kind of just agree with what Dante said, about like, I guess the representation aspect of it. Like we need youth to be included in order for us to have conversation and address youth concerns. It kind of, if it was, I guess if it was from the point of view of another that has been in our situation, it kind of doesn't have the same effect if it doesn't come from like one of us in a sense. So I think that youth does need to be included for change, especially when it's targeting ourselves, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Tajay. Sincere, go ahead.
Yes, I agree a lot with what she said because it's more predominant towards the youth because I wouldn't say we understand it more, but through teenage age, you know how a lot of things change and happen. We will understand it more than a lot of adults do because we would speak from a more recent experience.
Thank you all so much for those insights. We have a couple of other questions from our audience, and one of them is about the Yeah program and your experience there. And what was something, is there something you learned from your peers or other youth advocates during the process that surprised you? I think some of you have touched on this already, but if you could address that, that would be great.
Okay, yeah. So when we were all sharing like our own, I guess, struggles and what we've been through about experiencing like racism on a daily, there was definitely a difference between the genders, both the women and then the men within our group, and like the experiences they deal through and like deal with and what we deal with. Um, I think that although we were both black and we both like come from the same, I guess, background racially, there's a little bit of more, not more stakes, just like difference of how we're treated within society on a daily basis. I know that a lot of the guys within our group said how they had to have this talk with their own fathers about getting pulled over by the police, but me, I never had to have that conversation, at least not yet. But I did have to have conversations about what's appropriate me for to wear at a very young age, and I don't think that the guys within our group got the same treatment, or how like the color red as a young girl was seen as grown and inappropriate, whereas guys, it was like something with their hair that it wasn't like presentable and things like that. So I think dealing with those racial biases showed like the difference that the youth kind of goes through. And that is something that, I mean, I kind of knew, but it was nice to hear. Not nice to hear, but it was just like interesting to hear how I guess that difference still lies within youth today.
For me, I personally thought that something that surprised me was actually also the similarities that I saw between not just men and women, but also just kind of all of us as a group, seeing how while all of our experiences were slightly different, like some people had say mental health problems when it came to how their hair should be presented or how their clothes should be presented. There was still always a similarity of like believing that you had to look a certain way or that um, aspect A about a person is presentable, but aspect B about them isn't. And it's usually aspect B is more of a um, it's more of a personal one that kind of that can kind of define you, while aspect A is more of a universal aspect that is usually seen through things like social media.
Thanks, Dante. We pulled up one slide here that I'd love if Sincere, Dante, or Tajay, if you could touch on this slide sort of pulls together some of the learning from all three sites that you found in common. Sincere, do you want to take that on?
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Um, so something about this mental health program, for the youth is, we have a lot of different methods and other things that we can do to express mental health and how it can be important. And also benefits of this program with the mental health is youth getting their confidence or feeling more comfortable talking about mental health. It's also very good with their mindset because they can connect a lot of different things to different details and moments in their life, if you know what I mean. And also, it also gives the youth a space or a resource to talk to or um, speak on about their mental health and things that they're going through.
Thanks, Sincere. Any other last comments from any of our presenters who would like to jump in?
I guess last sentence is thank you all for being here and presenting or allowing us to present, and thank you to the NC Yeah for allowing us to even have and create a talk like this to be able to be able to present to y'all. Um, I, for one, feel like I've learned a lot of things about different people, while also feeling like I was able to share a lot of my feelings and ideas about how we can make the world a bit of a safer place um, for Black youth around the world. So, thank you.
Thanks so much, Dante. And thank you all for joining us today. Um, and again, a really special thank you to Kylan, Sincere, Tajay, and Dante. We value your contributions so much. We will send this recording and all associated materials out to everyone who registered for our webinar today. Please feel free to reach out to First Focus on Children if you have any questions at all or want to connect on what we went over today. And thank you.